Okay, so now let's go back to the person template. So now we would like to add a new attribute called spouse. So let's just type the name first, spouse. And now what should be the type of the spouse? String. Well, string might work. For example, Jim's partner could be, I don't know, Jenny. Oh, sorry. Maybe it could be maybe Mary, or it can be anyone, right? So now for spouse, but it would be even better if we make the spouse a person as well, right? Because if you make it a string, then that's the only information you get is this string. But if you make it a person, then you got actually much more information of a spouse, right? Because spouse should be also a person. Okay, that's the tricky part. But don't worry, I'll also explain this concept on Monday. I just don't have a whiteboard handy. So you can say person here, person. Person. Okay, basically we are declaring a new attribute here called spouse of type person. Okay, so you can see under the person templates, we have another attribute of exactly the same type. That's okay. It's absolutely allowed. Okay, a person of person spouse. And now let's say we have a new method here. So hopefully this will be easy for you. Okay, so now we're going to get married with someone. So you can say, so when you get married, don't actually return anything. So you would say void, and then you would say, let's say married, and then, so here for the input parameter, what should be the type? Person, right? Person, and then we would say, let's say new spouse. Okay, and then we would say spouse equals new spouse. What about divorce? Let's although it's not set in the instruction, so let's say we have another method called divorce. Void marry, oh sorry, divorce. And again, actually for divorce, actually you don't need to know. Of course, you're going to divorce your current spouse, right? So you don't need any inputs. So you're simply going to. I'm also going to talk about this on Monday, but the way you should do it is by saying, now my spouse should be no one. So there's a special keyword in Java called null, N-U-L-L, which means my spouse now would be no one. Okay, just no one. Spouse is null. Okay. Okay, let's see what we can play with Jonathan and Jim. Okay, so now let's just go after this. Okay, so now, I really want to marry them too, actually, but it's not so good. So let's create another female here. So now let's say we create another person here. Let's say Mary. So let's say person Mary is equal to new person. So what about Mary? Last name Mary. I don't know. Hopkins, let's say. How about that? A female. Let's say now we would like to marry Jim, and we want Jim and Mary to get married. How about that? So you can say Jim dot Mary. Right? You can see. So here basically, we are saying Mary is going to be passed as an argument to the Mary method. Okay. And now we can actually do system.out.println. You can say Jim's wife is, and here you can say, now here comes a little bit tricky, but just try to type and then I'll try to explain to you. First of all, we know that Jim.spouse we know is a person. And a person actually has all the attributes we mentioned before, right? Has a height, has a weight, has a name. So now we can use the dot notation one more time. Okay? So Jim.spouse dot first name. Let's just have the first name here. So this is the part that you don't want to get confused. So we are trying to use a dot notation twice here. So when we say Jim.spouse, it's going to give us Mary. And Mary is also a person. That's why we can also say Jim.spouse dot first name. You can use the dot for as many times as appropriate. Questions or yours? No. Okay, so that's about it. Let's try again. Let's run the program here, and you would say, Jim's wife is Mary, right? What about we let him divorce? Too bad. Let's say Jim.divorce. If you try to do exactly the same line again, and now, if you try that, you can see now, before Jim's wife is Mary, but now Jim's wife is no one, spouse is no one. So if you do that now, somehow actually, because Jim's wife is no one, okay. Actually, that's slightly more advanced. It's simply because Jim's spouse is actually no one. And since there's no one, so you cannot call the first name. So that's why there's some exception here. But I'll explain that on Monday, so don't panic too much. So you can simply just say spouse here. I think that'll be easier for you. Don't stress too much. I think I'm teaching a little bit too much here, but that's okay. You can accept that. If you do that, Jim's wife is Mary, but after the divorce, Jim's wife is null. Okay, that's one thing. Okay. Now let's see. On the other hand, what happens if Jonathan marries Mary? Jonathan marry Mary. So now you will see that Mary now becomes Jonathan's wife. And then here you can say Jonathan, the spouse, right? Yeah, so basically you can see we're just trying to use some set method. Okay, so now you actually have Jonathan's wife is, and don't forget, so Jonathan the spouse dot first name. Okay, since we know there's such a spouse there, and then if you do that, you have Jim's wife is married before, but since they divorced, so Jim's wife is null. But now Jonathan marries his ex-wife, so now Jonathan's wife is Mary. That's basically the story. Yeah, very cliche story actually, but you can create it in whatever story you like. Okay, that's about Mary actually. Okay, you can get a feel. I'll actually talk more about what it really means when you actually pass objects as the argument on Monday. Okay, one more. What about the array? Okay, let's do something quickly. So now in the array, you're actually going to create different instances, and you're going to output the person who are older than 50. Okay, so now let's do that quickly. Let's go back to tester. Okay, back to tester here. So now remember before, the way to create an integer array is by saying integer like that. So for example, you can say numbers. That's what you can do before. But now, because we're going to have an array of person rather than an array of integer, so you're going to change this from int to person. Okay, and now rather than saying it's a numbers, let's just have a better name. Persons is equal to new, or you can simply say it's Jim, Jonathan, and Jackie. Don't forget Jackie. Jackie is also a person there, right? Also yourself, of course, in your program. So now we actually got an array of 3 persons. We got Jim, we got Jonathan, and we got Jackie, right? And this is how you should do it for the array. The only difference is now rather than having integer, string, or boolean, now we actually have person there, right? Okay, that's one way of doing it. Let me show you another way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be you can say person array persons equals new person. So now let's say size 3 over here. And now you can say persons at index 0 should be assigned to Jim. And persons at index 1 should be assigned to Jonathan. Persons 2 and should be Jackie. Okay, so far so good. So now we would like to run a loop to actually make sure that only the people who are older than 50 will be printed. Oh, we forgot to set Jackie's age actually. So let's say Jackie has first name. What about Jackie does set age? Let's say 18. How about that? So that means Jackie is not going to be selected for printing because he's under 50. Okay. Now, how do we actually run the loop? We can run the loop as before. So now, just as before, let's say for loop, integer I equals 0, I less than. So person's the length. There should be no surprise here. The length, and then we're gonna say I plus plus. Exactly the same way as we did before to run through the one-dimensional array, right? So now we would like to see, we would like to say that we are not going to print out all the names, all the persons. We're only going to print out the persons whose age is larger than 50. How do we do that? Let's say larger than or equal to 50, let's say. So we got Jim and Jonathan printed out. So now we're going to say something like this. If something here. So we're going to say if the person we are currently looking at, the persons at index I, right? So this will be a person. And if you try to put a dot here, it's going to give you, you see all the age, first name, height, last name, etc. Do you know why? Because remember, persons is actually a person array, which means all the elements in the persons array is actually a person. So that is why the variable at the objects you have at persons at index I will also be a person. That's why you got first name, last name, etc. available. So you can see, you can say persons I dot age greater than or equal to 50. If that's the case, then I'm going to print out the person. What does it say? You're going to print out. Okay, good. Thank you. So you're going to print out system.out.println. So you can say, yeah. So you can say persons I dot first name. First name. Okay, I would say print. So I don't want a new line yet. Okay, and then I'm gonna say, oops. Okay, you're gonna print out first name, last name, and then nationality. Nationality, and then the last one, I'm gonna say print a new line. And I will like space in between. Okay. Hopefully you already know the tricks about print and print line, right? Print is going to stay in the same line, and print line is going to change a new line. That's something you should know by now, I hope. Okay, let's see. That's the array part. If you launch the program, you can see now. Here, that's a loop. So Jean Davis British, Jonathan Cooper Canadian, right? But Jackie Wang is not printed because he's under 50, right? Okay, that's about the Mary and the array. Okay, try to study the code we have developed today, and watch the video if you like to. Okay, try to study this, and then we'll do something different, more examples on Wednesday, so you can get some feeling about objects and classes. So when I talk about the lecture on Monday, so you make much more sense. Okay, thank you. So I'll see you on Wednesday then.